Let's start it off with estate and trust trial attorney John Pankauski to help let you know what to look out for if you're worried your parents might be getting financially exploited. John, good to have you here. Welcome to the show.
All right, it's my pleasure to be here.
I feel like we should take a 30-second break so I can go throw on a suit, but
Not
it's
necessary.
okay. You can rock the sharpness. This is a big one. 5 red flags your parents might be getting financially exploited. Is this a common problem down here?
Yes, sadly it is.
Yeah.
Financial exploitation, what we in Florida call elder abuse, financial elder abuse is much more common than people realize. And sadly, South Florida, where people go with money to retire, gets an unfair share of financial exploitation.
Yeah, and you and I were talking off camera. I would imagine it's more prevalent if the kids don't live here, but even if everyone lives here, it still can happen right under your nose.
Yeah, it really can. So lack of contact and communication with your mom or dad or your aunt or your uncle is certainly one of the red flags that we look for, because we're concerned about strangers, non-family members coming in and seeking out financial prey, but it can happen with family members as well. And I'm not talking about distant family members. I'm talking about siblings that don't get along, sibling rivalry, who live down the street or who live in Broward or Dade or Palm Beach away from mom or dad, and when one of them is away, the other one is trying to come in and influence mom or dad.
There was a story, and this is a little off topic, but and maybe you remember the details. There was a super rich elderly lady who was worth a fortune, and she ended up leaving most of it to her dog. Do you,
Yes.
you know, right? It happened down here in South Florida, and her
Yeah.
kids were fighting for the money, and she gave it to her dog.
Yeah, in Florida you can have this crazy thing called the pet trust.
Yeah.
You leave money in trust for a pet, and millions of dollars were left for this pet. And if you're an heir, a next of kin, a child, I can understand where I might be a little disappointed by that. So the great question about pet trusts is, what happens when Fido dies? Who gets the money? And if it's a child, how long is Fido really going to live, right?
Right. I mean, maybe if you give it to a cat, they have 9 lives.
They have
So
9
they'll just
lives.
see it, right. You know, they'll get to use the money, get a Ferrari. Whatever.
Recurring, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into these 5 red flags. The first one that you have here is new persons in their lives with important roles. You just touched on this a bit, but if you want to go ahead and expand on it.
Yeah, you know, you need, I'm not talking about new golf buddies or bridge players or neighbors that your mom or dad or your aunt or uncle's hanging out with, right? Positive people, caring people in your life is important, and a lot of seniors down in South Florida have very active lifestyles. I'm talking about things that don't fit the mold, right? Is an unemployed security guard asking your mom if he can drive her to the bank? Is the caregiver or the dry cleaner asking your dad if he or she has a power of attorney and whether they need a power of attorney? If you see new people, strangers to the family, coming in and trying to assert themselves with financial, legal matters or important roles, that's a red flag. We need to be cautious about that.
You know, it's sad that we even have to have this conversation. It's sad to think that people are even capable of doing this. Do you ever in your practice, and you've seen this probably too many times, or do you ever just find yourself just kind of shaking your head and just like disappointed in mankind when this stuff happens?
Yeah, you feel disgusted,
Yeah.
right? That you've got nice elderly people living in South Florida who just want a little bit of shuffleboard, you know.
Who doesn't?
Who does not want good
Dinner at 2
shuffleboard?
p.m.,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. You know, 5 p.m. specials. They want to relax and enjoy their golden years. And because, look, they're in their 70s or 80s and even 90s, they have a lifetime of savings, an IRA, retirement accounts, bank accounts. They're prey to these financial exploiters.
Right. All right. So let's move on to the next one, which is important, which is lack of contact and communication, something that children have to be very mindful of with regard to their parents.
They do. I mean, you would think that most children and close relatives would have a close, loving relationship with mom or dad. That doesn't always happen. And you need to be mindful of that. I can't tell you how many times I get a call from a family that says, oh my God, somebody just wiped out the safe deposit box. There's a stranger whose name is on the joint bank account. My mom has a power of attorney naming the dry cleaner guy as attorney in fact. And you ask them, when's the last time you spoke with your mom? Oh, I haven't spoken with mom or dad in 6 months. Lack of communication, lack of contact, you don't know what's going on. Red flag, not a good sign.
Again, you know, I'm getting so angry hearing these things. You know, like people would exploit people like this. But all right, so let's move on. And this is increased isolation, which is something that unfortunately elderly people sometimes experience.
Yeah. So as we age, not only do our physical abilities decrease, but we lose our cognitive abilities, our ability to think, to analyze, to ask and understand questions. And a red flag that you need to look out for is mom or dad not going out? You know, have they canceled their regular tennis match, bridge playing? Are they not going to lunch at the club? Are they staying inside? Do they not want to go outside? That isolation is a red flag, because as our mental state goes down, as dementia increases or can increase, if that goes untreated, God, we can just get worse, 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 fall off a cliff, and then we're more likely to be financial prey and more reliant on others.
And that brings us to the next one, and we have touched on this a little bit. With that decreasing mental state, sometimes comes an increasing reliance on others. So, you know, I think oftentimes if you can't be around your parents every day, you just sort of trust that they're in the right hands, and you hope, but maybe they're not. Right? I mean, so what do you do? You go visit them every day. How can you make sure that the home that you left them in or the people that surround them have their best interests in mind? Yeah,
it's a real challenge for out-of-state adult children, right? How do I know that mom or dad living in Plantation or Broward or Aventura is safe? So you need to find out who the people are that are in your mom and dad's life, and you need to find out who they're associating with, because as we age, as our ability to understand goes down, as we become physically more challenged, right, we become more reliant on others. And so that's a door that these people who financially exploit others try to get through.
And how do we make sure that our parents are not signing these new estate documents? And you know, what do you do? Is there an attorney that you can call to keep tabs on your parents? How do you check in on that stuff?
Yeah, great question. So I hate to portray an accountant or a lawyer as superhero, but the truth is,
you are. I mean,
well, you know, look, the good accountants and the good lawyers really help their clients. I know a lot of really good estate planning attorneys and accountants, and they really do the right thing and they care for their clients, right? And so I want to know who mom and dad's estate planning attorney is. I want to know who their accountant is, because those are the people that see the numbers. Those are the people that know where the money is and what's going on. They know where the bank accounts are. And so who are they? If we start seeing new estate planning documents, or we see a lawyer that comes into the scene recommended by the security guard or the paper boy or someone like that, that's a red flag. So we want to stay in touch with mom and dad. We want to keep contact. We want to stay in communication. We want to try to visit as much as we can. But other than that, we want to know personally who are in their lives, and also who are their advisors. Let's find out who is giving them the advice, who's trustworthy.
Yeah, well, great information, John. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time. People are going to have questions. How can they best find you?
Sure. They can go online to PankauskiLawFirm.com.
All right. Happy New Year. And
likewise.
And thanks for, you know, this is important to all of us. So thanks for helping us out. This is great. Thanks so much.
It's my pleasure.
You got it.